Okay, I'm going to call this regular meeting of council to order. First, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on a traditional unceded territory of this Anawas First Nation. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda, so I'll just make that motion that the February 25th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be adopted with additional information for item 9A as presented. Second by Councillor Savage. And I think we just have Councillor Lerner. That's it. Okay, so we do have quorum. Okay. So I'll move then to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. Now we're on to motion to close the meeting to the public so that the meeting be closed to the public to consider an item under section 91N of the community charter. Is there a seconder to that? So second by Councillor Savage, and then for discussion. There's really a discussion there. I'll move then to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed. Okay. All right, so to those that have attended I'm gonna call this meeting back to order, just for the gallery's benefit and for those who are watching. We did adopt the agenda earlier this evening at 5 o'clock, and there was additional information received for item 9A. At this point, we're moving on to item 5 of the agenda, so Mayor and Council verbal updates. We can start with you, Councillor Savage, if you wish.
Nothing for me, thank you.
And then we'll go to Councillor Lerner
Nothing for me.
and Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, just a reminder to the community that there is Wounded Warriors happening this weekend. Usually the Legion puts on a really good event, supported by the fire department as well. And yeah, so just a heads up that there might be some road disruption, and just to be patient for those runners. And just also a recognition that today is Pink Shirt Day, so anti-bullying. So bullying, as we know, can come in all shapes and sizes, whether you're young or old. So just a good reminder for all of us to behave respectfully and professionally, and be kind to one another in our discourse. Because like we said, we can see bullying in all areas of our work and life, and even in council. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, for myself, nothing to add to this evening's updates. Okay, so moving on to item 8, so we have under public input, persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record, and may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comment regarding items listed on this evening's agenda, excluding public hearing topics. Comments must be directed to the chair and are not to be directed to individual members of council, staff, or the audience, and must not include personal issues. And again, to those who are in the gallery, we want to make sure everybody feels welcome when they're speaking, so no booing or clapping or anything else. Thank you. So if anybody wishes to speak, open mic. Okay, nobody, and then anybody remotely registered this evening? Nobody, okay, thank you. Moving on to item 9A, so we have the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150-2019, amendment to the Regional Service Land Use Designation and Regional Service Development Permit Area Bylaw number 414-2025. Director Robinson, it looks like you are going to do a little presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a brief presentation, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. So before you today, you have the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications for the Superior Road Regional Service Area. Just a lot of this is background and just project history, just because it's been a little bit since it's been before council, and just for the benefit of those in the audience and watching online. So currently, land use designation is residential. It's in the Upper Lantzville Superior Road Special Plan Area, and it's in development permit areas as noted, and it's zoned future special area plan zone. So the proposed OCP amendments in bylaw 413-2025 would create a new regional service land use designation, which highlights permitted uses and identifies other policies that would apply to development in this land use designation. It also creates a new development permit area for the Regional Service Development Permit Area, which deals with the form and character of the buildings, siting, form, massing, scale, materials, and deals with other items listed on the slide deck there. The proposed zoning bylaw amendments would create a new regional service zone, which would include a list of permitted uses, including a variety of light industrial, office, retail, and warehouse uses. Dwellings would be permitted above a ground floor to permit a caretaker unit or a live-work building for a maximum of 4 dwellings a lot. The height limits would be 15 meters for intensive retail or warehouse, 16 meters for live-work buildings, and 12 meters for all other buildings. And it sets minimum lot sizes in the zoning as well. The zoning map, which is noted in the bylaw 414 shown on the screen here, would show the changes of these properties from future special area plan zone to either regional service or park zone. There are proposed amenities and a requirement for a future phase development agreement if the development proceeds. These have been included in previous agendas. We won't belay them in enormous length here, but it includes about 7% of the site as parkland dedication, road improvements, construction of a trail, a greenway, water and sewer infrastructure constructed to the site, and community amenity contribution of $2.37 million. So the water service extension would run from the Harvey Road terminus to, which is indicated in the red dot on your image on the screen there, to the southwestern corner of the site, which is located in the yellow dot there. A bit of an application history. At the July 23rd, 2025 regular council meeting, first readings of the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments occurred, and then council passed a motion requesting additional information. That information was provided to council at the September 17th regular meeting, and a motion to conduct public information meetings and additional engagement with the News First Nation and other stakeholders prior to second reading was passed. The public open houses were conducted on October 20th, 22nd, and 23rd, and council was provided with a detailed public engagement report about those meetings as well as other correspondence received at the February 11th, 2026 council meeting. So that was included in the agenda package at that meeting. From October onward, additional meetings with Sonalis and News First Nation were held, and discussion about the development and a variety of other topics are ongoing. So the recommendation in your agenda package is for second reading of the two bylaws. Correspondence was provided to council from staff that if the second readings of the bylaws are provided, an additional motion to direct staff to schedule a public hearing should also be included. So that would be motion 3 on your slide deck here. And that staff are also recommending extension of the community consultation period for the OCP amendments for the Superior Road properties to be extended to the conclusion of the public hearing. So the motion that was passed at the September 17th meeting said that the consultation was to occur prior to second reading. So second reading is tonight. We would like consultation to continue until the scheduled public hearing. If council will recall, in the Local Government Act, you're supposed to be open to receiving information until the conclusion of the public hearing, at which point no further information is to be received. So it would make a logical extension to extend the consultation efforts that the staff and council are doing with various stakeholders around the project to the conclusion of the public hearing. So those are staff's recommendations for the evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Through to council, any questions? And I can't see Councillor Lerner in case he has any. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
I just had one question. I think if I heard correctly, the parkland dedication is 7%. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's approximately 7%.
And how does that compare to the official community plan recommended parkland dedication for that particular area? My recollection is that Upper Lantzville Superior Road Special Plan Area Land Use Summary lists 20% parkland dedication. Is that correct?
I don't have that in front of me, sir. I do believe that as part of the detailed development proposal, there were offsetting amenities that are proposed. So there's a generous cash contribution as well as extension of water and sewer and some other items that are included. I believe it was all in your September 17th council package.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you again for your presentation. All right, so through to council, I'll get the motion on the floor that the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150, 2019 Amendment, Regional Service Land Use Bylaw and Regional Service, Regional Designation and Regional Service Development Permit Area Bylaw number 413, 2025 be given second reading. Second by Councillor Savage, and then for discussion. At this point, I really have nothing to add. I'm all in favor of moving forward with this, at least to public hearing stage, and also to further extend the public consultation period to see what more information will roll in. I know we've received a fair bit of correspondence to date as well, but again, I think moving forward, so all parties involved and will have a fair opportunity to be heard and have this application be heard. So, Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, council is striving to have adequate consultation. with Nanawas and residents. Hence, the pace we're going is methodical and steady, and this was underlined in the statement that was read on September 17th. So passing second reading tonight simply means that there can be more consultation and an opportunity for more public input at the formal public hearings. So from now until the public hearing, it gives an opportunity for people of all viewpoints, and Nanawas and the applicant to give more input. So I look forward to that. And I think it's important to stay with the prescribed process that we've set. And so far, we've had input from about 119 people. This correspondence was presented in the January 28th agenda, and there may be more input and comments upcoming before and during the public hearing. So, and I take seriously all the various inputs from the various categories of people involved in this, from the property applicants to Nanawas to residents and sort of district staff, their information and so on. So after the public hearing, that's the time for council to weigh in. Until then, I'll be attentive to listening and reading correspondence, hearing from people. Thank you.
Additional speakers? Councillor Lerner, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So my indication is to let this go through to a public hearing. We've heard from approximately 120 people. I would say it's about, currently in the letters we've received of individual names, about 10 to 1 opposed. But that's out of a population of probably over 4,000 in Lantzville. So I am interested to hear what the community comes to speak about. And I am particularly would note that I have heard and we've received correspondence from people who want to speak at a public hearing, both in favor and opposed. And then those opposed also have feedback they want to give of how things might be improved. So I do think it is worth going to a public hearing. I will note a few things that are of particular interest to me to hear from the public hearing and potentially from the landowner. The first is with regard to the parkland dedication, and I understand there's some offsetting amenities, but I would note that on I have pulled it up here on our official community plan, page 125 under Upper Lantzville Superior Road SPA land use summary, it does require a 20% parkland and dedicated riparian area dedication, and then additional semi-private space for ponds, wetlands, and semi-private courtyards. So I am interested to hear the public's feedback on that and the landowners' thoughts on that. Further to that, I was not on council when this was initiated, so I don't want to put words in the mouth of the previous iteration of council, but I did receive the press release that the community got, which was put out on August 13th, 2020. And in the press release, it does note that the council initiated an OCP and zoning bylaw amendment to redesignate and rezone, quote, a portion, end quote, of the properties. And I will note that what we've received is not a portion of the property, it is the entire property. And then I will also note that that sentence continues to say that it is to facilitate, quote, a light industrial and service commercial development, end quote. Both light industrial and commercial service are existing zones within our bylaw. Neither of them include intent as a land use. I would note that neither the new designation of regional service area nor the regional service development permit, the area that goes with it, are listed in the press release from 2020. So for me, it's very keen to hear what the public think. A public hearing is key. And I'll finish off by saying that in the letters we received thus far, and I do look forward to receiving more, but no matter where people stand on this issue, I want to hear from them. The number one concern that keeps being brought up is traffic. And so I would very much like to see if there's any amendments or anything that comes forward from the property owners regarding traffic. Two things are brought up at a previous delegation. One was the engineering standards, which I appreciate must be met, and that does give me some comfort, but I would note that the engineering standards deal with things like, can the road handle the weight, can the turns be made, and not, is the neighborhood comfortable with the volume of traffic. And the second thing that was mentioned by the property owners was that they only wanted to proceed with traffic if they felt it was they had been satisfied. However, once something is rezoned and the lots are sold, neither council nor the current landowners will have any say. So that's what I'm looking to hear about. I'm looking to hear everything. My mind is open, and I hope we get a lot of consultation with our partners and a lot of feedback from the community to make an informed decision. So I'll support second reading, and it sounds like those follow-up motions for public hearing and consultation, I will support those as well. Thank you.
Additional speakers, Councillor Mundell.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm going to support this tonight. However, I also really look forward to hearing more from the community and getting more feedback. My reason for backing this now or moving it forward now is just to hear more. I also have been reviewing all the public consultation and hearing the traffic concerns, hearing the concerns about lights, the noise, the impact on residents in the area, and take that very seriously. So I encourage the community to, weigh in at this point and have their say during what likely is coming in the public hearing. And we will take that, and I personally will take that feedback very seriously in considering this proposal. So that and future and further consultation, as Councillor Savage mentioned, with our neighbors and our First Nation community. So we would definitely want to continue that. So encouraging that to happen in this time frame. So looking forward to the next step in this, in that I want to hear more back from the community and what they think and feel about this project. Thanks.
Okay, I just had a couple quick remarks and probably save time on the rest of the motions, but yeah, so I'm interested in also learning a little bit more information. Some of the, or quite a number of the letters, they were in the form of a petition were received. And, there's a few things I'm, keenly waiting to, or have answered. And because it does suggest that, council could be potentially exposed to some potential liability. So I would like to further unpeel that onion to find out exactly, what council will be exposed, or how they're going to be exposed. And this was in relation to the environmental concerns and riparian protection. Also with traffic, obviously there's a lot of concern around traffic. My understanding is that there's a lot more design to be undertaken and so forth. And perhaps as this application moves forward, we'll get more information around what the costs around those traffic designs are, because my understanding, we get the landowner could be getting into like millions and millions of dollars of just design costs for roads. So that's the explanation I've been given as to why we don't have these fancy drawn out designs done yet at this point, because they cost a lot of money, millions, to get properly designed, and then also go off to and have approval from the province or the Ministry of Highways. So, there's a lot of information I think that's forthcoming on that to deal with that. But I think rest assured, it's the province that's going to be doing any highways approvals, and they're going to have to approve the design. Obviously, that filters through the District of Lantzville and through our own subdivision proofing officer, but really the authority is going to lie with the province. And if it's not adequately designed, it's not going to happen. It's just that simple. In terms of value or property value impact, again, you know, I'd be interested in learning a little bit more about that, especially for those who are in close proximity. You know, is there gonna be a negative land or a negative impact to the land value? And also those further away, are there potentially going to be land, people are gonna gain value in their land because now they're gonna have water and sewer potential. So is that gonna also have a net effect of increasing the land value of others? So it'd be interesting to learn more about that as we go along. Other than that, again, there's some, you know, a lot of the letters, you know, that we received, again, in the form of petition, we're speaking to legally, environmentally, and socially inappropriate, and violates OCP policies, risks, provincial environmental law compliance. So again, I would like to learn more about that through staff and potentially our legal counsel on what does that mean for council? Is council actually at risk of getting sued over this personally, so on? Like to learn more about that. But at the end of the day, what the public hearing will allow council to do is also consider potential amendments to what's being proposed. If there's a lot of concern about specific elements of what's included, you know, council can suggest amendments to take back to the property owner, and they may be amenable to those amendments, or it may not be. But we won't know until we have all the information gathered. But nonetheless, I think council as a body is seeking information, and how we're going to get a lot of that is through the public input, but also, you know, as there's a longer consultation period, there'll be more information continually flowing back to council to make as I think one councillor said, an informed decision. So without further ado, I will move to, unless there's any further comments, I will call the question on second reading. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. Moving on to the next item. So District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180, 2020 amendment for the regional service zone bylaw 414-2025. Director Robinson, is there anything further to introduce on us?
No, sir, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions about what's listed in the actual zoning bylaw? Okay, hearing none, I'll get the motion on the floor that the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020 amendment regional service zone bylaw number 414-2025 be given second reading. Second by Councillor Savage, and then for discussion, Councillor Savage, if you wish.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Through the rest of the council. Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. And I don't have the other two motions in front of me, so. Do you have them? Or? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
That a public hearing for official community plan amendment bylaw number 413, 2025, and zoning bylaw amendment bylaw number 414, 2025 be scheduled.
Yeah, I'll second that. And then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
No, that's just part of our format, so we're just approving staff to arrange a public hearing, set the date, and so on.
Okay, for myself, I have nothing. Through the rest of the council. Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, it's carried unanimously. And then go ahead with the fourth one, please.
Yes, there is a whereas, phone, so it's on the record. Whereas at the September 17th, 2025 council meeting, a motion to conduct consultation in terms of the official community plan amendments for the Superior Road properties was passed. Be it resolved that council, in coordination with staff, extends the consultation period for the official community plan amendments for the Superior Road properties until the conclusion of a scheduled public hearing.
Okay, I'll second that. And then for discussion, Councillor Savage.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, nothing for me either. Through the rest of the council. Okay, hearing or seeing nothing, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to item 9C. So this is a public feedback legislative requirement regarding the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. Councillor Lerner, you have a motion.
Thank you. I will read the motion. The council directs staff to fulfill the legislative requirement of public feedback for the 2026 to 2030 financial plan to the following steps. 1, place the most up-to-date draft of the 2026 to 2030 financial plan on the district website. 2, post the link to the 2026-2030 financial plan on the front page of the district website for feedback. 3, post the link to the 2026-2030 financial plan in the March 2026 community update for feedback. 4, post the URL and notice elsewhere as required by legislation and or bylaws, such as on the District Hall Bulletin Board and or the Nanaimo Bulletin newspaper.
Yeah, I'll second it. And then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Lerner.
Yeah, it's very simple. I purposely worded this motion so it does not include a particular percentage tax increase. It does not include any particular flyer. It purely invites feedback on our budgeting. We've had a few budgeting things. We've already voted on the capital plan, but we can't legislatively proceed without doing public feedback. We have to approve a budget by May. So basically we have to do our first readings by the end of April, meaning that basically we have to get an update into the March community newsletter, which goes out, I think, next week or so. So the goal of this is purely to fulfill the legislative and bylaw requirement. It does not preclude council from editing the financial plan or making any other changes. It's purely to fulfill the legal.
Hey, Councillor Lerner, if you can hear me, your internet connection's a little unstable. It was only during that last talking turn where it was kind of bad, but just at the end.
Yeah.
But the rest, it was only glitching momentarily in previous speaking turns, but yeah, it was just in the last little bit there. If you want to repeat, go ahead.
Sure, I'll just say
half a second or whatever.
Yeah, sure. It was just purely to fulfill legislative requirements without stopping council from making any edits or any changes. It's purely to fulfill the requirements listed in our bylaws and in the community charter.
Thank you for that. For myself, yeah, I can support the motion, but more importantly, what this the motion kind of forced me to do is I did a little bit of research on it, and what I garnered from my research and reviewing the community charter and so forth. What's most important is that municipalities have a process and that we follow a process. And within that process, it has opportunity for basically public feedback. So in the past, the way we've typically done it is through each meeting. We have a public input session. So the budget will be on an open meeting agenda and people can speak to it at any time during the budgeting process. So that was one of the methods or avenues that residents could take if they wanted to give feedback on the budget. And we've received some feedback on our budget through that mechanism. But the key is it's important for municipalities to establish that process. So my question through to staff, do we now have, and this is the problem here, is we've had a lot of directors of finance through Lantzville in the last little while. So maybe there isn't a process or what, but maybe you can speak to that, Director Sapola or CEO Lasher, about is there an established process that staff has been following, or have you guys now established a process?
Thank you, Your Worship. In the past, there has been surveys put out on the website, is my understanding, and we don't have a formalized process and a policy. So they've been relying on public feedback through the survey process. Okay. And Director Wells can step in anytime here if she's got more history on that.
Thank you, Director Sapola. I didn't have very much to add. Basically, we've just been deciding each year how we're going to pursue it. So there hasn't been any consistency or typical way that we've done it. So last year we did a survey, as Director Sapola mentioned. We've typically put information into our community newsletter, which this motion also includes. And we've invited the public to submit correspondence as well, so they can write in at any time about the budget. What's most important right now is that there is something posted for the public to provide comment on.
And then staff can determine how to best illustrate that to get the feedback that council wishes.
Yeah, thank you for that. And in the past, even the process we go through, process or the adopting a financial bylaw, right? So even that is considered to be the, method of public feedback or input. So I'll be doing a notice of motion, or I'll just be submitting a motion for our next council meeting agenda, just simply to, so by way of this is really a notice of motion that staff develops a process, because based on my research and staff, if you have information that contradicts what I'm saying, that's fine. You can bring that forward next meeting, but it's really about having a process laid out and establishing where in that process the public feedback or information is allowed or welcomed, we'll say. So I'll leave my comments there. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, for me, this is my 8th budget, and the past 7 has worked just fine with leaving it up to staff to ensure there's public input. We just had that survey once, not before that nor after, so I would tend to want staff to look after this. It's one of those things, I don't want to get involved with it. Staff can contact the province or other municipalities, any entity, to see what they're doing and what's required, what's the minimum required, and so on. So I'd rather just leave this with staff. And for liability issues as well, it's when there's things like this, and they've done it so many times in the past, I'd prefer just to leave it up to them. And then I also have a problem with item number 1, respectfully, Councillor Lerner, and that is to place the most up-to-date draft. Well, we haven't had a chance to discuss this draft yet. So if we were doing something, I would want to see the February 11th draft go out, not this one, because we haven't had a chance to discuss it. And in it, there's something about borrowing for Dickinson Road. I wouldn't want that to go out. We've never discussed this yet. And through chair to staff, I would prefer the colored brochure for our budget. It does not go out as part of a public input process. The reason is simple. It's just one of the headlines is borrowing for Dickinson Road. And I would prefer one of the headlines to underline that we've put over $7 million funded by money we already have into infrastructure. So I wouldn't want the headline to be just one project of many, that there's any borrowing involved in it, because we don't have any borrowing involved, as I say, with at least 7 million or more, with all the long list of infrastructure and capital items we're doing this year. So is it possible to not include this brochure with public input going out? Yeah, okay, yep. So that was my only concern. We haven't really addressed that, and I'm really pleased that first, that Director Sapol has done such a great job, and second, that we've built up over the years all this funding and sources to be able to put so many millions into infrastructure without borrowing. So, but at any rate, that's my conclusion, if you don't mind, Councillor Lerner, that my preference is to just leave this up to staff. If they do want to formalize a policy or just do what's been done every year, it's just, why fix something that's working when we could be making an unknown error here by getting involved in it? Thank you.
Councillor Lerner?
Yeah, I just made this motion for 2 reasons. One was because staff had requested a motion in the last agenda authorizing a survey, and we should have defeated that. We turned that down. We shot that down. So I thought there needed to be a motion for it to go in the community update. If that's not the case, I'm happy to refer this back to staff so that they can we could even refer the motion on the floor to staff for them to enact and report back. But my question through your worship to staff is there a requirement for council to pass a motion for the community update and public feedback, or can we just refer this back to staff?
Go ahead, Director Wells.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, there is no requirement for the motion. It could just be referred back to staff.
Okay, then thank you. If it's all right with your worship, I'll just make the motion that a referral motion to refer the motion on the floor back to staff to enact legislative requirements.
I would say that's kind of a different motion,
Okay,
because the motion that's on the floor right now is directing staff to fulfill the legislative requirements through the following steps, and you've listed 4 steps. So my suggestion to council would be just to vote the motion down on the floor, and if you want to do a replacement motion that, or if staff doesn't even need direction and they're managing just fine, just leave it alone. That's would be my advice. Because a referral motion, and then with further instruction, which is contradicts what's in the motion, doesn't make sense. Okay. All right, is there anything further from council? You know, in spirit, I support the motion, but I'm gonna vote it down just to get on with things. All right, so I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, noting that's unanimously opposed, the motion fails. Anybody want to do a follow-up, or are they satisfied with that response from staff? Okay. All right, moving on. So we're on to 9D. So we have the Southern Community Sewer Local Service Departure Bay Force Main Twinning Loan Authorization Bylaw number 1904/2026. This is from the Regional District. I can just read this one out. Sure, we're all good. Okay, that the district of Lantzville consent to the to the following bylaws submitted by the Regional District in the Nanaimo Southern Community Sewer Local Area Service Departure Bay Force Main Twinning Loan Authorization Bylaw number 1904/2026. Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Savage. And then for discussion, not really much to add except for it's they're redoing a pipe, and then while they're doing it, they're doing some additional works, and it's expensive, and they need to borrow the funds to move forward with this project. So with the Southern Community Sewer Local Area Service, we're basically the other partner to the city of Nanaimo in that service at the RDN, and they need to have this approved to move forward with the project. But it is a necessary project, and then from my understanding, basically this is not a cost passed on to all residents of Lantzville. This is only passed on to the residents that actually have sewer service. So within the RDN taxation, they break it down into the different service levels that we have in the district of Lantzville, and this is the one that, from my understanding, is split out from the rest, and is solely covered by those in Lantzville who have sewer. And I'll leave my remarks there. And I did have additional information, but I didn't. Well, I've got it electronically, but if you're really interested, I can get into it further. Councillor Savage is the seconder.
Yes, thank you. I just have several questions for staff, or the mayor if he knows. But through chair to staff, this new debt servicing, the cost of it, do we know the total cost to Lantzville of what it's going to be? Or?
Your Worship, oh, sorry.
Director Spola, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. The invoice is going to be prepared. I got a hold of the RDN people, and that will be passed through to the people with sewer, as the mayor had said. I'll be getting that in the next couple of weeks, and I'll have an answer for council at that time.
Okay, so it basically costs somewhat unknown at this point. And in our budget, there's a certain fee increase for sewer fees. So is this going to be on top of those fees, or is it included already?
The requisition will come through separate from the fees that we collect.
In the RDN portion, of course, yeah.
That's correct,
All right,
yeah.
so it'll be the RDN taxes that only will apply to sewer users in Lantzville, and their RDN tax bill will be higher than those.
That's
Okay,
correct,
gotcha.
yes.
Okay, so they will find out, we will find out. And then the last question about the RDN, if perhaps you could answer this, please, Mayor Swain. Last year, we discussed transit, increase in transit service, and we referred it to the next year. Is that coming back this year, or is that gone by the wayside now?
Well, a little off topic, but I will respond because I did bring my little screenshot up for my notes. So basically, what I'll give all the council here is what's happening moving into 2026. So basically, what's happening is last year's costs are being realized in 2026. So last year was the first year we had saw the transit expansion or the hours, the additional hours being added to Lantzville, and basically now we're paying for it in 2026. And it does come with a hefty price tag, I think, as most people knew at the time. So the tax is actually going up to, for a representative house, which is 1.157 million, is going up to $47.29 per house. That's the total cost. But the actual tax increase from 2025 is almost a 64% increase. So it's a fairly substantial increase from the year previous. So yeah, so that's, I don't know if that kind of answers that.
Okay.
And then next, so for 2026, the costs of running transit will be paid for in 2027. So what the RDN has recommended, or transit services has recommended, you let the run or the service or the increased service level run for 2 years. And at that point, based on ridership data, if it's not working, then at that point is when you make the decision if you're going to reduce to the previous level of service, which is basically cutting the hours in half.
Okay, so last year, I bring it up because it's all under the umbrella of RDN taxes here, but last year when it came to council, I don't think there was too much support for it, so we just referred it to this year. Is it too late to make a decision on that now, or is that a done deal that this transit increase is happening?
Well, the advice that's being given through from the transit services is you let the expanded hours run for 2 years, and at that point, based on an evaluation of the ridership information, if it doesn't appear to be making much of a difference, then make a decision on what to do then. So you have to let, based on their expertise and evaluation of when hours are increased, it takes time, or it could take time.
Yeah, okay, well, it's off topic for this one, so perhaps at the next meeting or the next budget meeting, we can get a review of that to see what our options are. It'd be great. So anyway, for this, I'll be supporting this motion here because unfortunately, what is with the RDN sewer system, and the one in Hammond Bay is just turned into a gem. It's an extremely well-run outfit, and turns around all the liquid in 24 hours, and it's quite benign what's put in the ocean. I kind of laugh because I researched this a bit in the past couple of days, and back in the 1990s, it was just the endless topic. It never seemed to end, of how the odor coming from the French Creek sewage facility with all sorts of expensive upgrades, proposed and so on to do it. And here I'm reading there's still some odor problems with some, not all. I don't know how severe it is, but anyway, that's a big price tag for, it's about 30,000 people being serviced by it, plus those that dump their septic waste there, which serves more people, but that's a big bill for a 30,000, catchment area of people. And that's not homes, that's people. So 77 million, wow. Now, I've seen this for decades, this enormous engineering cost. The engineering firms that land these contracts to upgrade sewers, build a plant, and so on, and we keep reading it in the news, the huge cost overruns, et cetera, so it's necessary. We can't do without it. The one in Nanaimo, that's 50 years old now, the force main and departure bay, and 3/4 of the sewage goes through that force main and departure bay, so that's critical. I just hope this is money being well spent for the French Creek one, that's all. So, but it is what it is. You have to keep up the cost to have quality sewage treatment, so I'll be supporting it, but it is a shame that the expense is so high. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a point of information, I misquoted the Southern Community Transit costs. Should put my glasses on for this. It did go up by $47. I think I said it was $47 per house, but it's actually went up $47 this year per house, and it's almost $125 total cost per representative house in Lantzville. That's what we pay for transit. So it did go up substantially. And like I said earlier, it was about a 64% increase, so. And then for the Southern Community, or the wastewater Southern Community Service, that's gone up almost, it ends up being about 26%. So the cost per household is just over $175 per representative house, and previously it was just about $140 a door. So it has gone up quite substantially, but overall taxation from the RDN this year, if you look at the requisition, just for additional information, ends up being 11%. But we have to remember we have it's 11 services that we subscribed to the RDN for, and it was basically 3 of them were big increases. So we had the 64 for transit, and then we had a almost 26% increase for the wastewater Southern Community Service, and then for the Southern Community Recreation, that also went up. That was the least of our worries. That was just about just under 6%. So, but that's the biggest part of our RDN tax requisition is the Southern Community Recreation costs. So lots of information, but anyways, getting back to this motion, anything further? Hearing nothing, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, moving on. So we're on to 9E. So this is the District of Lantzville miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw number 26/2004 amendment, water, sewer, garbage, recyclables, and food waste rates bylaw number 427/2026. Director Sapola, is there anything further to introduce here?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So I'll get it on going here. So District of Lantzville, so I'll just make the motion that the District of Lantzville miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw number 26/2004 amendment, water, sewer, garbage, recyclables, and food waste rates bylaw number 427/2026 be given first reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner. This is for introduction, so I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed?
Oh, sorry, are we voting on this?
Yeah, it's just to introduce the bylaw.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
okay,
typical
thank you.
process. I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously that the District of Lantzville miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw number 26/2004 amendment, water, sewer, garbage, recyclables, and food waste rates bylaw number 427/2026 be given second reading. Second by Councillor Savage. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I'll be supporting this. I did want to point out that all the water rates, as they're graded with consumption, they're all being increased about the same, about 4.6 to 4.7%, just out of interest. And also out of interest, the late penalties are the same, or there's a big blurb there in red, although the current bylaw has exactly the same penalties. So I guess it's in red just because they reorganized the information differently, so I'll be supporting it.
Okay, Councillor Lerner.
Yes, I'll be supporting this, but I had a couple quick questions to the staff. One was, this essentially just keeps up with what the RDN is charging Lantzville. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Director Spola.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, this is for our user fees collection. So the RDN will be on top of this.
I see. Okay, that
This
makes
is-
sense.
Yeah, this is for our inflation and our budget expenditures.
Okay, that makes sense. My question then as a follow-up is with regard to Schedule E, which is the associated with the collection of garbage, recyclables, and food waste. Right now it says yearly rate. That's been crossed out, and instead it says quarterly rate. Now the numbers make sense. So for example, if you have the one at the bottom, the 2 times 240-liter garbage fee and all of that, and you multiply out the quarterly, instead of 565 annually, it's 595 annually, which is the inflation. So all of that makes sense. But my question is, why is it switching from annual to quarterly? And were we not sending you quarterly utility bills already?
Last year it was listed as yearly. For clarity for staff, when we're doing the billing, we decided to put it into quarterly terms because that's how we bill. So that's why the decision was to list it as quarterly charges.
Thank you. May I have a follow-up?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So in other words, just to make sure I understand, people were already being billed quarterly, but essentially the bylaw now, instead of being annually and people having to do the math themselves, it basically just lists it quarterly for reference.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Debate? All right, I'll move to call in question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. And then District Lantzville miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw number 26-2004 amendment, water, sewer, garbage, recyclables, food waste rates, bylaw number 427-2026 be given third reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. Anything further? Okay, not hearing or seeing anything. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us on to 9F through to council. This is with respect to the District of Lantzville 2026 to 2030 financial plan bylaw number 429/2026. I know there was some concern about receiving what I would agree is a fair bit of information on Monday, and whether or not there'd be enough time to prepare and look at making some motions this evening, especially doing first and second reading. So we can have some discussion on whether or not we want to just refer this to our next meeting or deal with it tonight. So through council, Councillor Lerner, I think you had your hand up first.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I totally understand that this was received, the information on Monday evening. And so while I am prepared to discuss it tonight, if council as a body decides that they want to refer this to a future meeting, I'm fine with that. I do note that I believe 2 councillors had requested a special meeting on this topic. So if it is preferred to refer it, my recommendation, because our agendas are so long, would be to refer it to a special meeting on this topic to be scheduled via email so that we can get as many council members in the room as possible.
Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I would prefer myself that we don't go to first reading tonight on this, but that we refer it to the next budget meeting, whenever that is, hopefully soon. And that for, as I say, I've had 8 budgets, so the previous 7, we've always had an opportunity to discuss the operational side of the budget, but we haven't had a chance to do that yet, so it's important. I'm ready to wrap it up in just one meeting. I don't have a lot, but it's something, we have a big agenda tonight, but I really do need that meeting to discuss. We have to finish off a few capital items and go over the operational items. So that would be my preference, to wrap it all up at the next meeting. And also, out of respect for the two councilors that requested a meeting, I supported that too, that we finish the budget off with the budget meeting, and then go from there. I did want to thank you again, Director Sepoli. You're so nimble, and you make revisions so quickly, and you're a very good listener in that respect too. It's kind of what you always do in the business world. You're continually revising budgets, sometimes daily, it seems. So I really appreciate that, and you're just getting into a good system where eventually it'll be very predictable and efficient for council every time. So yeah, fingers crossed. But so I think next year will be far more fluid, efficient, easy. We're kind of changing on the fly, coming up with our system this year. So I appreciate your patience with all of this. So that's it for me. I would prefer, I'll let others speak if they want to, then someone or I can make an amendment to refer this to the next budget meeting. Thank you.
I'll go ahead, Councilor Rendell, and then I'll do the referral motion.
Just gonna check with staff, when is our next currently scheduled budget meeting?
That's a committee. Is that going to be a special meeting, or is that going to be? Sorry, we're just consulting.
If council's available, we have slotted Wednesday, March 18th as a committee of the whole budget meeting. Would that work for everybody?
Yes, I think probably it would. I just might suggest that we consider having a special meeting rather than a committee of the whole, so we can actually,
Sure, we can do that.
yeah. dig
We
in
can
and
do
get
that.
work done. Okay, yeah, so that was my main concern and question, is just I would love to focus on this one topic, as others have mentioned. I don't want it squeezed into an agenda. I want it to be the agenda so that we can just dig in and focus on that. Thanks.
So through to staff, for March 18th, can we not just by motion change that to a special meeting or finance meeting?
Sorry, Your Worship, it already is in the current calendar as a special finance meeting, so there are no changes needed.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we just need everybody hopefully can make themselves available. Now it would be at 6 p.m. Okay. So I'll just make a motion to refer the 9F to the March 18th special council meeting. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Savage. Anything further? I will move to call into question. All those in favor and opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. And because it's a special meeting, it will be for that one topic only, just so council's aware. Moving on, so we have 10A. I'll just make a motion to refer 10A to in camera. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Savage. Any discussion? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call into question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. All right, where am I? Let's see. Okay. Moving on to 10B, so we have the 2026 grant and aid applications. Director Wells, is there anything further to introduce here?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Savage?
Yes, I can make a motion for all four if you like.
Let's do them individually, especially if there's dollar amounts for each one.
Okay, I'll do the first one, that a grant and aid be approved in the amount of $500 to the Catnap Society to fund work in the Lantzville community in 2026 to manage the feral community cat populations known in the Blackjack Drive, Superior Road, and Phantom Road areas There's one at my house too, feel free to come up. There are estimated to be a minimum of 25 to 30 unfixed feral cats in these locations who will continue to breed and expand the population. Unspayed female cats can have at least 2 litters each year.
Okay. Second by Councillor Lerner, and then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Savage, if you wish.
No, thank you, Councillor Lerner is the cat expert here, so.
Councillor Lerner, if you wish.
I fully support this. I think that giving money to this organization is worthwhile. I want, just speaking for myself, to give money to all of the applicants. I will note that this applicant deals with feral cat populations specifically in Lantzville, so I think that it is a benefit to the community. When feral cat populations are not dealt with, it expands very, very quickly, as is said in the motion, and before you know it, you've got a much bigger problem on your hands for the community. So I think it's best for the welfare of the animals and for the community that the grant in aid of 500 be approved.
Okay, for myself, yeah, I looked at this one and I can definitely get behind supporting it. In terms of the dollar amount, I believe the ask was a lot higher. So my question to the Councillor Savage is, I know you're prepared to insert dollar amounts for potentially all 4 of these. What were you intending to do for the Legion?
I was going to do 500 for each one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I was hoping to, we have $2,500 to spread around here. And the one issue I have with the Legion always coming to the grant and aid is it's kind of somewhat against the policy, if I recall correctly, you know, in terms of doing repeat donations. And I know where we're kind of have to deal with all 4 of these. But I also see it as a community funded event similar to Mine Town Day. It's and I think it should be funded separately. Should be a separate line item in our agenda and not even be a grant and aid. We should just be giving the Legion a certain amount of dollars, but I can debate that later per year rather than having this process because it's closing down the road. It has to do with traffic, safety, and that sort of stuff, and it's you know, coordinated through the district and approvals and so forth. So to me, it only makes sense that this is an annual event. It's not going away, that we just give them an annual amount of money to go towards the cost of doing it. So I know I'm not debating the catnap one, but I would like to give the Catnap Society more money because I know their ask is higher. But I don't know what, it's kind of awkward to to have the 4 on, you know, and do them separately, but there's no easy way of doing this. So those are my thoughts, Councillor Lerner.
Yeah, I would note Councillor Savage just mentioned giving 500 to each one, and I would note 2 things. One, we have $2,500, and 500 to each one is only 2,000. And the second thing I'd note is that the BC Yukon Command only asked for $385, so 500 is more than they asked for. So my recommendation, if the goal is to give more money to the catnap and the Legion, then instead increase the catnap to 750, and it would still leave enough money for the others.
Okay. Through the rest of the council, what does council want to do? Okay, so.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so I'll just amend the motion on the floor by striking 500 and inserting 750. If there's a seconder. Okay, second by Councillor Lerner, and then any further discussion on the amendment for the catnap?
Can they do rabbits too?
Oh. Yeah, I think everybody wants that. Yeah, go ahead.
There are discussions at the city of Nanaimo as we speak regarding rabbits that we should probably watch.
Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion on the amendment, I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. So we're back to the main motion as amended. So 750 to catnap. Anything further? And yeah, reading through the report, I think it's great work that they're doing, and this is the first time I think they were receiving funds from us. So this is a good one. So I'll leave it there. I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed? That's carried unanimously. That takes us on to the next one. Councillor Savage, if you wish.
Yes, with this one, that again, you can amend it if you like, that a grant and aid be approved in the amount of $500 to the Pacific Coast Stage Company, the Nanaimo Fringe Festival, to assist with the cost of the 12-day Nanaimo Fringe Festival, which connects Lantzville residents with theater, volunteer roles, and inclusive arts experiences that strengthen community, creativity, and social well-being.
Okay, I'll second it, and then discussion, Councillor Savage.
Yes, this is a great idea, this one. I really support it. It allows sort of on a, I don't know, lottery type basis, but it gives everyone a chance if you want to be a comedian or do a solo act or whatever you like to allow amateurs to give a chance for exposure and so on. And Lantzville's Nicole Natras lives on Dickinson Road, will be putting on. She's on there for sure as one of the performances. And she'll be doing, I think it's a solo performance describing life at 50. So it'll be interesting. So good for her. So anyway, you're welcome to amend it to be more, but that's what I've got here.
Okay, I have nothing for myself. This is obviously a new applicant, so I can get behind it through the rest of the council. All right, I'll move to calling a question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously, and that takes us on to the next one. Councillor Savage, if you wish.
That a grant and aid be approved in the amount of $500 for the Royal Canadian Legion to support the annual Remembrance Day ceremony and celebration at the Legion in Coston Hall.
Okay, I'll second it, and then Councillor Savage, if you wish.
No, I think I've seen this one before, so I get your point about it being annual, that maybe for next year we can just give an automatic contribution and not have this part of grants and aids.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Lerner, because I've already kind of spoke to it. But I can speak to it again shortly.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, my internet. Okay, perfect. I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion on the floor by deleting 500 to the Royal Canadian Legion and inserting $865 to the Royal Canadian Legion. And I'm happy to speak to that if it's seconded.
Okay, second by Councillor Savage. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically we have 2,500. We've already approved 750 and 500, which leaves, I believe, 1,250. The next applicant has requested 385, so that would still leave $865 unspent. So this basically gives the balance to the Legion, assuming the next one might be approved at the amount asked.
Okay. Councillor Savage is seconder.
Yes, I was wondering about that. So you've read they're only requesting 385 because I've never seen the BC Yukon Command asking for money before. So I was hoping to give them the full 500 in case it's needed, and then reduce yours. That would mean yours is reduced down by another 115, which would make it 750. So if you want to consider that, 750, then 500 for the BC Yukon Command. Because we're very privileged to have a Lantzville resident heading up the BC Yukon Command. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just reading on page 101 of the agenda, and it does say specific amount of grant requested, 385. So I think we're giving them what they want. So I don't think I don't think we're actually probably allowed to give more than what's being requested or being almost like what's being invoiced, right? I think we have to, you can only give what is being asked. Okay. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I just find this is one of these reoccurring ones, and you know, for such a large community event that's attended by so many in our community, but also, you know, from north to Nanaimo and surrounding areas, it's become an annual event attended by probably thousands. I don't know how many thousands, but there's a lot of people that come to Lantzville and also Lantzville residents that partake in the days. So to me, it would only make sense that the Legion, who does so much work for the community, and even with their fundraising dollars through the Poppy Fund and whatever other fundraisers they're doing, they're cutting checks and giving money away too. So I think it just leaves more money. Eventually, we should be given more money so that their money they collect, they can use it to give to almost as they're better at probably distributing, the grant and aid kind of monies to other people in our community and so forth. So, anyways, perhaps we'll address it at another time. But I appreciate council increasing the number. Councillor Lerner?
Yes, just a note. I'll support my amendment motion to increase to 865, and then if that passes, I'll support the amendment as a whole. I will note they requested 2,000, and if 865 is approved, that would leave 1135 out that they still are looking for. As part of the budget process, council could decide, because we only have $2,500 allocated in grants and aid, council could decide either to increase the grants and aid amount or to award 1135 out of the one-time projects reserve. That would be sort of a separate budget discussion at the March 18th meeting, but I will support the 865, and I would be looking in the future maybe to make up the difference.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I was actually thinking the one-time projects reserve as well as a potential funding source for the shortcoming of their asks. So, but we can save that for a later discussion as Remembrance Day is a ways away. So, all right, and I guess at any point during the year, council can also amend the financial plan and release funds as it sees fit. So I'll leave the comments there unless there's anything further. Okay, I'll call the question on the. I think we didn't amend it. It was just 865. Yeah. All right. So on the motion as presented. So all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously, and that deals with all that. Great. Oh, we got the last one there. So Councillor Savage, if you want to finish it off.
Okay, that a grant and aid be approved in the amount of $385 to the BC Yukon Command with the Royal Canadian Legion to support the annual publication of the November 11th, 2027 Remembrance Military Service Recognition Book. Details are on the website it's written down there.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, I'll second that, and then for discussion, Councillor Savage.
No, as I say, I haven't seen them before, so this will be interesting to see the book that's published. Thank you.
All right, and for myself, nothing through the rest of council. Hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right. Right one. So we're on to 10C. This is regarding the Dickinson Road project. It's my motion. I'll just get it on the floor that further to the approval of the capital plan in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan, that council directs staff to hold 2 public information and feedback sessions for the Dickinson Road project, and further that one session be held after 5 p.m. If there's a second by Councillor Lerner. I'll keep it real brief on this one. It's pretty straightforward. Once we have a plan or a design that's approved by council, what I would anticipate is that it would go to the public for some input. We've done this before, and I think it'd be quite fitting in this case, just to make sure that we're considering all stakeholders in this, especially those folks down on Dickinson Road whose properties could be impacted by the works. But at this point, we haven't quite landed on a final design, but and that's something that's going to be subject to council's approval. So I'll leave it there. Seconder, go ahead, Councillor Lerner, if you wish.
Yes, I support getting public feedback, and I support the motion. I especially like the one of them's held after 5 p.m. I know a lot of people are working during the day. My one request is just if staff, through your worship to staff, I understand the initial design, we just received an email from staff that it was received from the engineers today and has to be reviewed. And I don't think a cost estimate has been received yet. So those are two very important pieces for the public to know before giving their feedback, because the cost will be a huge part of it. So my question through your worship, through to staff is it understood by this motion that the public feedback sessions will not take place until after council has reviewed and approved the potential design and cost?
Yeah, go ahead, Director Spola.
We did get very preliminary costs, but more information will be available at March 18. Yeah, we wouldn't go forward with an open house until council saw the two concepts, one with just the road and one with a road and a trail and drainage.
Great, thank you. Then in that case, I can support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, rest of the Director Robinson and then Councillor Savage.
Yeah, Your Worship, just a clarification item. The further that clause, the one session be held after 5 p.m. I don't think we have a concern with having evening sessions. We've done that for other items before. But would it be acceptable in council's understanding if we had, for example, a session that ran from 3 to 8 p.m. So there would be time after 5 p.m. Just in terms of scheduling staff.
Yeah, I don't think there would be any issue with that. I think it's just the intent of the after 5 p.m. is obviously for those who have the 9 to 5 jobs, that they would have the opportunity to swing by and have a look, right, and provide their input. So unless through to council, if there'd be any issues with what Director Robinson has proposed. Nope. Okay. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I agreed with Councillor Lerner's concerns, so I'm glad to hear that it'll have some proposed costs. I'm anticipating it'll be the concept design of the whole road with the walkway on the south high side of the road, an estimate for that. And then also the fact that we were told it'd be around 500,000 for a walkway on the north side. So I'll certainly support this. It'd be great to get public feedback, but as long as it's after we see what the plan is and so on. And also I'm hoping through chair to staff that it'll just be for the design and not any phasing or funding involved in the public thing, because we haven't had a chance yet to comment on borrowing or funding of Dickinson Road, this new proposal.
Whatever council's direction is for the open house. And if you don't want it with funding there, then I won't put funding in, but it will have the costs. But would you want the funding?
Yeah,
suggested
no, all I'm
funding?
saying is I'm anticipating that in the open house, there will be a concept design of the road with the price,
Yeah.
and then the price for the concept design for the one walkway, and then the prices for estimated cost for each walkway on each side. And that's about it, but
There were only two concepts that were contemplated. The
Yeah.
first one was just the road with the expanded shoulders.
Yep.
And then the second concept, just to clarify, that we got was the one where the sidewalks are on the south side, as you described, with the high and the rain gardens and the enhanced drainage. That was the second concept. No
Yep.
other concepts have been prepared after that. So
no,
we didn't look
no,
at the
no other
north side of it.
concepts, just the price. So those that might say, oh, what about a walkway on the other side? We could at least have a price there to say this is the cost, so they can see what the cost is, because that will be important. All I'm saying is I'm hoping that this new proposal of borrowing for Dickinson won't be included in the public open house, because we haven't discussed it yet, that's all.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, unless there's anything further, I will move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Next one, cost and haul bookings and associated cleaning fee. So I'll get the motion on the floor. This is my recommendation that council direct staff to prepare a report for council's consideration regarding the reduction of the cleaning fee for one-time short-term rentals that do not exceed 3 hours. So second by Councillor Savage. Can't remember, I thought I had attached, there was an attachment to this, but at one point, but anyways, staff could probably speak to it a little bit more succinctly, as I don't want to butcher the numbers here, but I think council's probably quite aware that there's quite a significant cleaning fee. So, so if someone wants to hold a birthday party, they're going to be stuck with, I think is it 180 or 100?
165.
Oh, 165, yeah. So it's $165 cleaning fee in addition to the hourly rental fee. And then there's also a deposit that needs to be given for the key. And there's also the possibility of having to provide insurance. And did I cover it all? I think I did. Yep.
Yes, your worship, and
Yeah.
just so you know, we're good with this. We're reviewing the entire fee structure that we're using at the facility, because now we've got a full year under our belt, so that was already in the works.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you know, through the council, members of the community have reached out to myself and may have also reached out to you as well, just around their concerns about booking at Cosson Hall for things as simple as a birthday party, and it's just cost prohibitive. So, you know, I thought the intent of council when we took over the management of Cosson Hall was to ensure that community members are using it, and then also that the rates would be in keeping with what other places would be getting rented out as and so forth. But again, the fees, from what I've been told, and I even registered as as a user and tried out the online booking, and that's how I found the fees. I'm like, wow, this is expensive. Back in my coaching days, not too long ago, with renting schools and gyms and so forth, it's quite nominal, the fees. And really all you're paying is, my understanding is always just a percentage of the janitorial cleaning fee for that time. It wasn't really a facility fee, but and it was quite affordable to, you know, book a, you know, even Seaview for an hour was like $13. So it was a steal of a deal. And then if you go to other facilities around, you know, is even the notion of having to provide insurance. You know, I've never had to provide insurance for a rental of Seaview or other facilities, but I know staff is looking at this, and I appreciate that, and hopefully we can get something back that you know, facilitates you know, a broader range of user groups to utilize Cosson Hall. So I'll leave it there. I forget who seconded this one. But yeah, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yeah, no, I will support this for sure. Let's say that was exactly council's intention when we took over the operation, was to have a very smooth, you know, transition, and to not have any big increases, to keep it somewhat the same. So I would totally agree. That's pretty hefty for just being there for an hour or two. So I'll support it.
And it sounds like we're going to get back a lot more than what's in the motion. So, Councillor Mundell?
Just a question through to staff. So if we don't charge that 160, whatever it is, for the cleaning fee, how will the cleaning after somebody rents it for, let's say it is only an hour or 3 hours, and they throw a birthday party? I've been to kids' birthday parties, they get pretty messy, cupcakes everywhere. So I'm just wondering, if we don't charge that fee, how will we be ensured that it's clean for the next user?
So the general provisions of the use require the users to do general cleanup after their event. So they do what I'll call the light cleaning. So just, you know, sweep the floor, clear up your dishes from the kitchen, this type of thing. The 165 is really geared at the weekly cleaning. That's the deeper cleaning, and gets the facility ready for the following week.
Okay. And I wonder then, in our agreement, will we have some sort of way of recouping if somebody doesn't leave it in the state that we would find acceptable?
Well, that's why we have the deposit. So every user pays a $200 deposit, and if they leave it in good condition, they get the $200 back. So that's how we deal with that aspect.
Perfect, okay, I'm completely fine with that.
Councillor Lerner, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll support the motion, and I look forward to receiving the report. I understand the purpose behind the cleaning fee is to make sure that we're not losing money on the janitorial, but I would almost rather see in the report, if it's possible, to have a cleaning fee based on the type of event. It's sort of to what Councillor Mandel said, which is, a kid's birthday party, no matter the length, will probably be a lot messier than a few adults sitting around having a volunteer meeting with some papers, right? So I almost think it might depend on the type of event. When I look at the booking website, the 1 hour fee is $40 and there's a one-time administration fee of $35. So you can be in there for an hour for $75 and pay a $165 cleaning fee. It seems off balance, but as Councillor Mandel mentioned, there are some events like kids' birthday parties that can be very, very janitorial heavy. Let's put it that way. So I would like to see what the options are.
And I won't belabor this too long, but having rented some space, even at Oliver Woods, for multiple purposes, for multiple events, from birthday parties to wind-up parties, with, in some cases, like, say, 20 to 30, up to like 60 people. Everybody pitches in and cleans that place up because nobody wants to lose their deposit. So, if something is spilt, it is cleaned up, and generally there's like a mop and bucket there if there's a larger spill, and there's usually other cleaning supplies available. So I think if we have everything in place and so on, I think it'll be not a problem. And if it is a problem, someone's gonna be losing their deposits, so. Yeah, anyways, but what is a problem right now is, for a simple birthday party, having to pay an extra $165. People just aren't having their birthday parties there anymore. So it's just become cost prohibitive, especially for a community facility. So anyways, I'll leave it there. Anything further? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Mandel.
Just one more question. In the fees that are charged for the rental, would that cover part of the weekly janitorial fees? Because, I mean, yes, people will clean up if they drop food or spill, but things they won't do are scrub toilets and sinks and things like that, which need to get done on a regular basis. So if we're not capturing that in our fee collection, how are we gonna pay for that?
So there's a number of ways we could do it. One way would be to just look at the hourly rates we're charging and build in a little bit for each hour so that we have some money set aside for the cleaning, for example. So some of the user groups that are there for longer periods of time, they should be paying more for the cleaning because they're getting more use out of the facility with their booking. So we really have to look at all of the different types of booking and try to figure out a system that's going to be consistent and easy to administer with all that variation. So we're trying to be very careful this first year because our understanding is that council wants this to be neutral in cost. So we're being careful that we get enough revenue to balance out the expenses so that we're as close to zero as possible at the end of the year. And so that's part of the reason why we didn't tamper with the fees too much this first year, is we just wanted to sort of see how we landed. And now that we have a year under our belt, we can go and do some analysis and come back with some fee structures for council to consider.
Any additional comments? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll move then to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously, and that moves us on to 10E. So this is tennis court, beach volleyball courts at 7005 Lantzville Road. This is my recommendation that a placeholder of 180,000 be placed in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan for the rehabilitation of the tennis court and construction of 2 beach volleyball courts, including benches, and further that a footnote be added to the financial plan indicating the potential funding sources as follows: potential development, community amenity contribution, grant funding subject to grant funding program availability, or growing communities fund reserve. If there's a seconder, I'll speak to it. Okay, second by Councillor Lerner. Yeah, so basically with this motion, it is put a placeholder in a financial plan. This is the intent of this motion is not to commit any money at this point, but to get it into the financial plan. So again, it's not an afterthought. So the reason for the footnote is essentially to identify that there are multiple funding sources or potential funding sources. So we already had a development application come forward, and they were going to basically foot the entire bill here of 180,000 for what's being suggested. And in their recommendation, it was one beach volleyball court, but I think there's enough room in there for two. But even if it's one or two, it doesn't matter. But it'd be nice to have a beach volleyball court to develop, but also included developing that entire site. Right now, if you go down there, the whole thing is just run down, covered in brambles. It looks like a disaster, and then the court's not usable for tennis. So the 180,000, as it was presented in that development application, did everything. Rehab the entire space. So it's not just the court itself, or just with additional volleyball courts. But again, it is a placeholder motion. It doesn't commit the district to anything or this council to anything. And I know there's other, I'm not going to say competing motions, but we do have other tennis court motions. But what this introduces is the possibility of the development community amenity contribution funding option, which we don't have. And I think it's important for transparency to identify that that is a potential source. Should that applicant come back at a future date with a different proposal, that we're not spending money on something that we could be getting as part of a community amenity contribution. So I'll leave my comments there. I think Councilor Lerner, you're the seconder.
Yeah, I'll support this as a placeholder motion. I'd like to have a more fulsome discussion of it on the March 18th budget meeting, because this is a budget item. So basically what this motion would instruct, if I understand correctly, is to put a placeholder into that financial plan, and then we would get to discuss it more thoroughly on March 18th in the budget meeting. And the reason for me wanting to go more in depth on this is, one, as Mayor Swain mentioned, we already passed a motion for tennis courts potentially to proceed at that site. And so that is part of the financial plan. And the second is I think we passed another motion to refer the idea of volleyball courts to the Parks and Trails Committee. And I don't think we've received a recommendation back on that yet. So essentially, I'll support this as a placeholder. And I do want to see those tennis courts revitalized ASAP, but I would like to have that more fulsome discussion at the budget meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, so through to council, what I'm going to put a referral motion on the table because it only makes sense to do this at this point, and then we can continue the debate. But I'm going to refer the motion on the floor to the March 18th special council meeting. If there's a second by Councillor Savage. And then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Savage, you're going to speak to
No,
this.
I would agree with that. I'd prefer discuss it at budget time, so that's great. I'll support the referral.
Okay, and then, yeah, again, it's really a discussion point because, again, do we want to be, if there's a potential for a community amenity contribution, it might be worthwhile delaying the project a year so it's actually funded not from taxation or any of our existing reserves. So that's the intent. Anything further? This is a referral now to the special budget meeting. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right, so this takes us on to the District of Lantzville Tree Protection and Management Bylaw number 358/2023. So this is a recommendation from Councillor Jones. What is council's wish? Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I move we refer this to the next meeting.
Okay, do we have a date on our next one? March 11th. Okay, so referral to March 11th. Okay, that's fine, Councillor Savage.
Yep.
Okay. And I'll second that. And then discussion on the referral. Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, cruising right along. Well, actually, yeah, I think this would be a good time. My water cup's empty. I'm gonna call for a 5-minute recess and then we'll reconvene. so we're on to item, sure I get it correct here, yeah, so 10G, so we have the formal communication system. Councillor Savage, is your motion?
That council and the CAO create a formal communication system to enable an efficient flow of communication and information in a timely manner, such as creating a private signal site for council and the CAO or another preferred such site.
All right, and do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Lerner, and then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I just think it'd be very helpful if we all know what the communication system is with our CAO. Yeah, I put signal site there instead of Facebook because some people pointed out Facebook is not very secure, but I don't really care. Whatever site is preferred by staff and council is fine with me. But I just find that it's going to be helpful to have one site where if we have questions or if the CAO has information to give us, we all see it at the same time. It's just more efficient that way. Every member sees it, and then update, same story. And files, pictures, comments can be shared. And the reason I like it written is because it's the most efficient. It's how I always did in business, was that then you can review the correspondence at your leisure when you have a moment. You're not being interrupted all day with calls or such. And that that's the understanding when we create it, that any one of us, including the CAO, responds when they have a moment to respond, as opposed to phone calls. It puts you on the spot right at that time and so on. So anyway, that's all. It's a very simple system. I've know we spoke about this for some years, about creating a system where the CAO and council can communicate, ask questions, etc. And this is about the simplest thing to do, is just have one site just for the CAO and council where we can communicate, get updates, that sort of thing, and knowing we're not interrupting the CAO, etc. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, CO Lasher.
I just want to be clear, no other council has ever asked me this. And email is the securest way of communicating with council. My fear is chatting on phones informally can cause our phones to be given in a privacy request or a lawsuit. And I'm trying to avoid your cell phones getting to that level where you're having informal conversations with me, and then there's a lawsuit tomorrow and your phones get taken for that lawsuit. So email is the safest form because we own the data on the email, and through our lawyers, we can release certain information. But if you start doing third parties such as Facebook and et cetera, you're opening yourself to somebody else owning your data. When I get an email and I have time to investigate it, I can then respond. Again, I've never had any other council ask me this question. You would be the first.
Okay, Councillor Lerner is the seconder.
Yeah, I echo some of what both Councillor Savage and CAO Lasher said. And I apologize, please let me know if my internet cuts out because it's had some issues. I agree that we should have a formal policy or system for communication. I do not think it should be done through something like Facebook or Signal. And that is for the reasons CAO Lasher said, as well as an informal back and forth communication can be considered or misconstrued as conducting business, which we're not allowed to do. There are ways to solve this, and so if this motion passes, what I'd be looking for is it just says give Signal as an example, and it says or other preferred such site, and I'd like to get a report back from staff on what that would be, because it sounds from staff that email is the preferred communication. The other, so it might simply be a policy around how that happens. The other thing is, we as a council, as a district, already pay for software for this for communication, which is our Microsoft licensing that all of the computers and iPads in our district have, and that includes things like SharePoint. So if there's a file which is secure and is FOIable and is on district devices, and if let's say CAO Lasher had a particular document that she needed all of council to see, she could send it through email or she could go through SharePoint if it's a large file. And I think that that might be the best way to do it, because I don't mind having a policy, I don't mind having a system, but if this comes back with something like Facebook or Signal, I wouldn't support it because it is it poses legal issues. So I'll leave it there, but I'll see what comes back from staff.
Councillor Mundell?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of having multiple different sources for storing information. I already have this problem at work where people want a share drive, a SharePoint, and then you save things on your own desktop, and then you have to try and remember where your document and your information all is. I get the idea of having a shared space, but I think we have to stick with one option. I don't love the email system that we have, and it is very difficult to find stuff when you get 30 or more emails a day. But one of the things I would prefer is something more, and we've talked about this in the past, of an electronic dashboard. So there are software programs out there, things like Jira, where you can put projects or motions or certain things into a software and then share that so that people can see what you're working on or where things are at in the queue. We do also use that in my work. So that might be something we sort of kicked that around for a while about having something on an electronic dashboard, so that we wouldn't necessarily have to hassle staff to be like, where are things at? And again, not expecting staff to put in every granular detail of what's going on, but just little updates would help, just so that we know where things are at. But I'm likely not going to support this particular motion, just because I feel like I just don't have it in me to check one more place for information. So unfortunately, I don't think I can support this.
Okay, for myself, yeah, this is an interesting one because we kind of do have a system already in play, and that's if any member of council has a question for staff as related to agendas, council business, what have you, that they can send in an email, and then the CAO will stick handle that in terms of, you know, will she answer it or will one of her staff answer that question, and then the response is then emailed out to all members at council. So that is kind of the current system, and if we need to have a policy that solidifies that, then so be it. Anything where there's more back and forth or to and fro, what have you, the concern there is advancing council business, not in the public eye. And so as soon as we have, well, it has been, I've heard mixed kind of like legal, whatever, informal opinions about this, and you know, even if it's one or two, or I guess two members of council, you know, going back and forth, you know, discussing a business item, that can be construed as advancing business. However, you don't have quorum, but even then, I even heard it from George Cuff's very own lips about, you know, that is not good practice, even having two members of council advancing business or discussing active business items or of council. So with respect to having a platform where that is possible, does not sit well with me. There's no transparency there with our constituents, and I wouldn't want to have any part of it. In fact, I would probably withdraw my consent to actually be part of it. It'd be that simple. So then, everybody else, if they want to partake, go ahead, but you won't see me on that list because it goes against the very tenet of having transparency with our constituents. So again, we already have a system in play. Is it official? No, it's not. We don't have a policy tied to it. If council wants to see staff develop a policy, then I would suggest we have an entirely different motion that asks that request or makes that request. So I'll leave my comments there, but as the motion is worded right now, can't support it. Councillor Savage?
Yes, I think there's too much focus on the site here. That's why I put in, or another preferred such site, and if that's email, that's fine. What I'm trying to achieve here is to get a more efficient system so that we're all getting equal information. It's not a system now that works for me, where some members of council get all manner of information and some of us don't get that information. It's very unequal now. I just want it to be equal. So one way to do it could be that every email then is CC'd to everyone and the answer CC'd to everyone. So that would be one easy policy. But the other thing I want to encourage is more communication. We have the CAO as our employee, yet I've yet to know what the communication system is. Some members of council freely phone her, but I've been reluctant to do anything because there's no system, and I'm someone that operates on systems. I find it very inefficient if you don't have a system in place. I like systems for everything so that I know what the system is. So I can leave it at that, and perhaps the CAO can get back to us and we can all think on it. What is the best communication system? But for me, it doesn't exist now. I don't know what it is. So that's the key to me, to both ask specific questions, get updates, and then flowing the other way, giving updates, getting updates from the CAO, because sometimes very timely things we're not getting until the council meeting, and even then, if we run out of time, we're still not. It can be a month or 6 weeks before we're getting critical information that a council member needs, wants, etc. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Whatever system has come up with, I'm just asking for a system, so perhaps the CAO can think on that and let us know what the system you prefer is, and council can give feedback to the system they want. If it's an email system, then that's fine, but I would ask, what I'm trying to cure here is that the information is very unequal on council. There's some with a ton of information, some with none. And I want to make sure that whatever information is given, we all receive it at the same time and the same amount. So anyway, I'll leave it at that and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, CAO Lasher?
We do our best to copy all of council, but sometimes certain councilors email us directly and we hit reply. So yes, we've made that mistake before, but we do our best to include council on everything. I do want to make it clear that email is the best because we control the information. And I do want to make it clear that council is governance, staff is operations. And there's a huge difference between governance and operations. So I guess, are we trying to get into operations by conducting business outside of the email system?
You're posing that as a question? Yeah.
I'm just curious. I'm not sure because I've never had a council ask me this before. So I'm just wondering if it's getting into operations now on behalf of council by trying to take business outside of our server system into another system.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I can only speak for myself, and from what I garner from our discussions and so on. But I think, in my opinion anyways, when, council passes a motion and instructs staff to carry it out and do their work and so on, there may be some members of council that want to know when things are happening and so on. But that's, more out of, it doesn't really fit within, in my opinion, our governance role. Our governance role is to set the motions, or get the motions moved forward and onto staff, and they carry out the work. And in terms of having regular updates on progress and so on, then I think we're just like anybody else in the community. We'll find out when it's happening. It doesn't stop a member of council from asking. They can always send an email and copy the rest of council. What's the status of this project or this motion or what have you? I'll probably be sending in a few myself in the next few days or week, with respect to a couple motions from the past, what the status is. But yeah, I think in terms of governance, after we've set something in action, that's, in my opinion, where it stops. And unless, it's more curiosity, oh, what's going on? And but we have to remind ourselves anytime we pick up the phone or send an email asking for information, that's staff time. And our staff is busy as they are, and with respect to the number of motions that this council has generated, and I think staff probably has more accurate numbers on this. It pales in comparison to other communities. Like we have so many more motions than other communities prepare. Like this council, some may take it as a criticism or what have you, but it's just fact. We produce a lot more motions than other communities. So, anyways, which creates more work. But in terms of this, having a back and forth, again, it's troublesome, and it's again, going back to transparency and conducting business, because it would be, in most cases, advancing business, and not in a publicly advertised meeting is highly problematic. So I'll leave it there. Councillor, or sorry, who's got their? Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. I'm looking for a yellow hand. My apologies, Councillor Lerner. Go for it.
Thank you. It doesn't sound like there's support around the table for this particular motion. So if that's the case, then instead, if this motion is defeated, I think staff and the CAO have heard sort of the request is mainly to develop a system. So I know there was talk of having monthly reports on the status of departments and having quarterly reports on the status of motions and having a system for what are the rules around email communication. So maybe if this motion doesn't pass, staff could simply take that away and come back with their own recommendation. But I do like the idea of having a system in place. I don't know if the way this motion is worded, it has the support to achieve that.
Councillor Savage.
Yes, well, we have 10 meetings left, basically, regular council meetings before the summer, and then the ones in September, October, or really nothing happens. So we're basically down to 10 meetings. So if we've been waiting 2 or 3 years for an important motion to get facilitated, we've every right to ask, I believe, for an update, what's going on, will it get done, et cetera. So I'm just asking for what is the communication system. And so when we get an answer to that, hopefully soon, I'd like to hear it so I can participate as well. What the format is, if be it a certain time of the week one can call. I know that other council members call, and or email if there's a good time of the week to email, but right now I'm unaware of any system. That's what I'm talking about. And also there is a frustration on council as you being our employee, as what I keep hearing with the CAO, that's council's employee, that if we're getting frustrated that we're running out of time this term and, we've been waiting 3 years for a motion or 2 years, that we have to have some way of communicating that so that we can be kept abreast. Is it going to happen? What will happen, et cetera. So that's all. I think it's healthy in any business that there's communication between employees and the manager or the owner, whatever. It just makes sense. And I'm sure on the staff side, between the CAO and staff, there's efficient communications done daily, but I'd like to see what, council is being offered in the way of communication, basically, is the bottom line, so.
Okay, CEO Lasher, I'll let you respond.
I spoke to a CAO last week who has 6,000 population, and they did about 200 actionable motions last year. We have 4,000 people, and we did close to 600 motions last year. And that's what we're averaging, 600 motions. And in order for me to take 600 motions from 2025 and update every single one in 6 months is not physically possible. However, we can create a document with our capital plan on the document and projects we're working on and update that document for you. But to update every single motion from 2025 would not be possible.
We've only got about 10, 15 outstanding open meeting motions, so that's all.
Okay, anyways, I'm gonna move then to call in a question on this. Is there anything further?
Well, if I may, I'll just refer this item to staff, or we can defeat this and refer it, I guess, make a separate motion then.
Yeah, it would just be a brand new motion, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna call the question on the motion. All those in favor and opposed, noting that it's unanimously opposed, the motion fails. And then Councillor Savage, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, the council directs our CAO to come back with a report on a communication system between council and the CAO.
Okay, I'll second that. Anything you'd like to add to that, Councillor Savage? As a mover, yeah, okay, as the seconder, yeah, I can totally support this motion, because I think what's gonna happen is we will get a report back that probably will read similar to what we've already heard from our CEO tonight, is it'll be done via email, and it'll lay out the framework for council to follow. It's just that simple, and I think part of that framework, and and I'm just speaking to what I would like to see, is that all members of council are CC'd on the responses that are coming in. And to me, it doesn't matter if it's a council meeting or a committee meeting, because there's things even with the committees that I'm completely unaware of that are going on, and then I hear about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I have no idea. But we all have to remember the committees belong to council, not to any individual. And to be cut out of the communications just doesn't make sense. We need to be aware of what's going on in the committees, so at least when it comes back to a future council meeting, then we're already somewhat briefed on what's going on. So, yeah, so I'm happy to see that come back. I don't think it'll be a long report. It'll probably be pretty brief, unless our CEO wants to write a book. So, any further comments from council? Hearing nothing, I will move to calling question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so we're on to number 10. So this is the Woodlot 1475 licensee John Gregson. Councillor Savage, you got a motion here.
Yes, that council requests Mayor Swain to consult with Woodlot 1475 licensee John Gregson regards Mr. Gregson's views on an expanded forest preservation surrounding Norriston Creek as a prelude to council considering making such a formal request at a meeting with the pertinent minister at AVICC or UBCM, which council has previously done.
All right, do we have a seconder to this? I'll second it, and then for discussion, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, this is an easy one. It's basically, in the past, we had one or two, I believe it was 2 meetings with the ministry representative about the woodlot because there'd been such so many community requests to expand the forest preservation there. So I thought with this, we'd at least start with an expanded preservation around Norriston Creek, something that on our woodlot tour, Mr. Gregson had said that they're doing voluntarily around paths and Norriston Creek and so on. But I would like to get his viewpoint on a more expanded expansion of the forest for a number of reasons. And then council consider his viewpoint, and we'll see if there's an appetite for meeting the minister yet again. We've done it twice last term. So we'll see if council then wants to formal request an expansion, and perhaps Mr. Gregson will have some views on how much it might be and so on. But it is a fish-bearing creek in Norriston, and I know people really value that aspect of the woodlot for recreation, so at least starting there. But all we're doing now is getting his input. That's all we're voting on tonight. Thank you.
All right, secondary, yeah, I can definitely follow up with Mr. Gregson. Actually, him and his brother, and see what their views are on that, and get back to council or have him respond directly. But yeah, so after the last woodlot tour, which was a first time thing that we managed to coordinate, had a great response and so forth. And obviously there's some renewed interest in the buffering around Norriston Creek. You know, we already looked at doing the 100-meter buffer on each side of the creek, and the ministry was not interested. And I've been at those meetings. I was the one pounding my fists on the table, demanding and trying to use a more forceful voice, and just fell on deaf ears and so on. But that's the way those meetings go, and sometimes you get low-level ministerial staff, sometimes you get the deputy minister. It just depends on the day. But you know, if that's the direction council wants to go on, we can look at doing that. What I do know is what the woodlot operator is doing and has done, and is they've taken other areas, areas around the Norriston, and they've increased the level of protection, and are just choosing to harvest from other areas within the woodlot, trying to create as much buffer. And there are some spots where there's over 100-meter buffer from the creek, and then but there's other areas where it's not, and but they are trying to do their best, and they've met with other previous groups, and have beefed up the conservation around the creek. Obviously, we want more. In a perfect world, we'd that's what we want. But there are competing interests here, and even we heard from the foresters themselves. There may be a harvest there this year. There may not. It just depends on what the market conditions are, and I know the province is under an immense amount of pressure to work with forestry and not get in the way. So there's lots of moving parts to this. It's not as simple as meets the eye, but can definitely have the conversation. And in my view, what I'll probably encourage the Gregsons to do is that they would just write to council or come in and present as a delegation. So it's not my interpretation of the meetings. It's directly coming from them. But I'm happy to initiate that conversation. Through the rest of the council? All right, we'll move then to call in a question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to 10I, so wage increases for QP contract renewal. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I'd like to remove this from the agenda because we got the answer on this today by email. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we just move on, and we don't have to do anything. It just will not appear on the next agenda. All right, so moving on to 12A, so this is a future old growth zone signs. Councillor Savage?
Yes, thank you. This is a budget item, that's why I'm bringing it up now. That per the approved future old growth zone motion of July 10th, 2024, a sign be erected at both the north and south trail entrances to be funded from the one-time special project operating reserve fund, with the sign wording being future old growth forest zone. This forest is protected to become a permanent old growth forest, a gift to future residents from Lantzville 2024 residents.
All right, is there a seconder to this? Second by Councillor Lerner and Councillor Savage, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is to just to put this on the budget, so, and it should just be a couple of few hundred dollars, so it's just to get it on the budget. And that Econ Consulting, that's the fellow that helps the Gregsons, speaking of the woodlot, during our walking tour, kindly offered that I have his contact information, that they can provide the location of the boundaries of the woodlot around this section of park. So it, it will sort of indicate where the sign would be. There's a trail that comes down to the top of this section and a trail that leads from the bottom. So that's where the signs would go, and with his help, they would know. So it's just to get it on the budget. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lerner is the seconder. For myself, yeah, I can totally support this. I don't know if it really needs to be in the budget. I think this motion could just be done at any time, and the monies are just taken or out of the one-time special operating reserve fund. So I don't think it really, we can do it as part of the budget planning process, but it's just one of these routine things that we can just do it as an amendment or what have you. So if the intent is to actually have it as part of the budget, then I would just recommend we just treat this as like the other referral motions and move it to the 18th and just deal with it then. Or if your intent is just,
No, I would move it to the 18th. Yep.
yeah, or just do it as it is now, and when the sign's prepared, it just gets funded out of that reserve.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can do it now then, so that's fine.
So, hey, I just want to make sure if the intent was to have it as part of the budget process or just to fund it.
No, it's just to get the project done. This is our last budget before the end of our term, so that's all. It's just to get the project done.
Yeah, so if that's the intent, I'd say just do it tonight, and then is it your intent also to have a couple sample signs come back for council to review, or just
and
staff
just
will do
leave
it?
entirely up to staff, and sure, we can just pass it now and then don't need to refer it to the budget.
I know signs can vary in cost, not just a couple hundred, but do we want to put a budget in there, Councillor Savage, or up to a certain amount, or?
No, we got tons of money in the one-time project.
And then I'm just saying, Director Sapola doing a size thing. Are we thinking like, 2x4 or 3x6, like, or 2x6? Like, do you want a nice big sign or something that's hidden?
Well, I could, have a lecture for the next hour on how to do a beautiful sign, but any old sign will do as long as it's just a typical path sign. And it's going to be forever, just like the old growth forest, so it should be metal, that's all.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Solid. last time. All right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, well, there we go. So it'll just go into the work plan and it'll get done. All right, anything further from council? Nothing? Okay, I will move to call into question, and all those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. There you go. It doesn't even have to come back to our budget. You can get done or getting working on it. Next one, 12B, so active transportation plan. Councillor Savage, you have a motion?
Yes, I would definitely refer this one to the next meeting, please. I know that it was discussed at the Parks Committee, so it'd be good if Councillor Jones was here. Thank you.
So refer 12B to the March 11th. I'll make that motion.
Yep.
Seconded by Councillor Savage. Is that okay? Any debate on the referral? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, next one, 12C, is that just gonna be referral? Refer 12C, okay, let's make the motion, refer 12C to the March 11th. Oh, sorry, yeah, 12B, yeah, sorry, apologize, Director Robinson.
There's no concern, Your Worship. I just know that we've engaged consultants to develop the active transportation plan, and I know they're in the process of putting together a draft plan right now. So it would be useful so that if council had some feedback in line with what Councillor Savage's motion is, that if that be provided tonight, that'd be a bit more timely than waiting until the next regular council meeting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll make the motion now then that council direct staff to ensure there are options in the active transportation plan which align with council's direction in terms of the amendments to bylaw 175. A, to have the option of walkways well off the road for safety, such as the new section of Alls Road at Harwood. B, to have the option of flat curbs to promote roadside parking and roadside drainage. C, to have the option of non-intrusive lighting, like the 14-watt lighting on 12-foot high lampposts on Harwood Road and the foothills.
Okay, so I'll second that, second it, and then discussion, is there anything further? Councillor
Yes,
Savage?
thank you. This is just to ensure that these options are included because our direction with amending the bylaw 175 plan was to ensure these options were included. It doesn't mean every road has to be like this, but just that the options are there. It's just with the active transportation survey, the only option offered was sidewalks with standing curbs and more lighting on roads. Yet many people would prefer non-intrusive lighting, like these nice posts going up to the foothills that provide good active transportation lighting. They provide plenty of lighting for the pathway and the road too, but that option was not included in the active transportation. And if they're not included, then they're promoting things adverse to council's direction for the bylaw 175. So they don't have to take out the sidewalks. They're quite appropriate in certain places, like Dickinson Road, for example, where there's tough terrain there. But it's just to have the option of these other things mentioned in the motion. That's all it is. And with the lighting, some people like the brighter lighting, many others like the non-intrusive lighting. It's just to have the option there is all that it is. So, thank you.
Director Robinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I do want to provide a bit of clarity on what an active transportation plan would have that perhaps a roadway design would have. So an active transportation plan is going to look at the network. It's not going to necessarily say, in this location, we have to regrade it by 20% and make a flat path, and we need to install this type of lighting and that kind of stuff. No. The active transportation plan is somewhat provincially guided in terms of the types of pathways, those kinds of things that would be suggested, and that will be included in the plan. And I feel like a lot of clarity will be given when you see the actual plan itself, Councillor Savage. I think a lot of this stuff will be very clear. What the plan's not going to engage in is in road design. So it's not going to say, in this location, you need a wall face curb. In this location, you need a flat curb. Or in this location, you should do 14-foot light posts versus in this location, you should do 25-foot poles. So it's not going to get into that level of detail. The active transportation plan is really following provincial active transportation guide. And then once we have the plan in place, we can then engage in applying for grants for those specific projects. And so when we get to the detailed engineered phase of different projects that are included in the plan, that's when that details like what type of curbs are used or what type of light standards are used, that's when those details will come in. So your comments are definitely noted, and I know you came to the active transportation open house and completed a survey and participated, and all these comments are definitely taken into consideration with the active transportation consultants. But I do just want to clarify what the role of the plan is versus what the role of a road design later down the road when we actually are applying for capital works would be. I hope that helps.
Perfect, thank you. Well, that's great. That solves the problem. My concern was they were getting into road design because of this survey, and they were getting into lighting because of this survey, only offering city-type options. That was my concern. But if it's just generally the routes and so on without the design, that's fine. That's, I just didn't want this used as a, you know, with these type of road designs that, you know, preclude what we directed. So there were no other options other than city roads with standing curbs and storm sewers, that sort of thing. So that's great. Then it sounds like it's solved. So much appreciated. I don't think it would hurt to make this motion to at least put it on the record that council supports not precluding our direction with the bylaw 175. That's all. But thank you.
Director Robinson?
Yeah, no, duly noted, Councillor. And I think what you'll see when the plan actually comes back is that there's going to be some different options to kind of obtain things at a rural standard. The consultants that we retain do have experience doing active transportation plans for rural communities. So I'm sure that they will be incorporating more of a rural standard in our community.
All right, anything further from council? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. And then I'm just gonna do a reconsideration on the previous referral motion, just more of a housekeeping, because we did refer 12B to the March 11th. So it's back on the floor. So at this point, I'd recommend we vote that down. Is everybody following? So we just, prior to this last motion that was passed, we referred the same motion to the March 11th meeting. So what I'm doing is putting that back on the table as a through a reconsideration, and so now it's back like it's not being voted on, and then I'm recommending we just vote the referral motion down because it's redundant. But we need to do it, otherwise it has to be on the next agenda. Okay, I will call the question on that referral motion again. All those in favor and opposed, noting it is unanimously opposed, it fails. Thank you. Moving on to 12C, so this is the park zone consideration. What is council's wished here?
We just referred that before we went back to the previous one.
No.
I think we all make the motion, and I think we
Yeah.
passed the motion, but I move.
Hold on, I'll just look to our minute taker. I don't think we did anything with 12C.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I move to refer 12C to the March 11th meeting.
Okay. And I'll second that, and then any discussion? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, excuse me. So the zoning bylaw applies to parcels of land, and there's different ways to accomplish what I think Councillor Jones is looking to do here, including road closure to create a parcel. There's a legislative process to go through with that, or just leaving the right-of-way open and constructing a pedestrian trail across the right-of-way and just putting something like bollards at either end and just using it, keeping the right-of-way open and then just having it as a pedestrian trail. So I don't know as if zoning the road is the right course of action here. What I would recommend is that staff be given the opportunity to return to council with a report on this item with a couple options to kind of highlight how this result could be achieved. For example, council may, once you learn of the ramifications in the process of closing a right-of-way, you may want to go down the process of closing the right-of-way to create a part parcel, for example. So I think giving us the opportunity to return with a report on some different options to kind of accomplish what I think is contemplated in this motion, I think would be a recommended course of action.
Okay, so through to council, or actually, sorry, through to Director Robinson, if staff were to return with a report as related to this item, what would you ask, what are the timelines? Like, would the March 11th meeting work, or do you need more time?
There's a lot on the work plan right now, Your Worship, but I do note that we could likely bring it back at the end of March, March 25th. So if a council passed a motion to asking for a report today, I could commit to returning it at the March 25th meeting. If it is a priority item, again, it's good to know what's priority and what's not.
Yeah, okay, so hearing that it's likely gonna be the 25th and you're already busy, you probably wouldn't commence work until after March 11th. Would that be accurate? If you guys are already under,
If you want to wait until Councillor Jones is here to have this discussion, it would just further bump the report returning probably until a meeting in April.
okay, yeah, all right, I'm fine with it getting bumped to April, because I think we probably need to have a bit more of a robust discussion on this, because I think everybody has on council maybe not at the same level of understanding of how all this stuff works, and if we are looking at a road closure, it's quite exhaustive, but again, probably best to have a discussion and find out directly from the councillor herself what her intentions are. So I recommend we just continue on with the referral to March 11th. Councillor Savage.
Yes, I was just going to say that. We can discuss this at the next meeting. So I refer this to March 11th
That's
meeting.
already been done.
Okay, thank you.
Now it's been done.
I thought it was more effective if you make the motion twice. It's more likely to pass.
Well, maybe 3 times. All right, so unless there's anything further, I will move to call in the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. All right, any light items? Okay, any notices of motion? And we'll go to public clarification. So a person is recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record, and the agenda item which they are seeking clarification. For example, anything to do with how the vote go, any technicalities and so forth, and you'll have 2 minutes to ask your clarification questions. Okay, nobody? Anybody remotely registered? Okay, thank you. And at this point, I'll make a motion to close the meeting pursuant to section 91 A, C, D, E, G, and K of the Community Charter, seconded by Councillor Savage. Any debate, additions, deletions? Okay, hearing nothing, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. Noting the time, according to my iPad, is 8:36. So we'll just take another short break till 8:41. So 5 minutes